Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate Stuff, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of real estate investing and the random stuff that make life interesting. I'm John Whitfield, joined by my co-host Carlos Moore from Invest Fuse and Carrot and BP from Mobile Home Park Operator and Ted Sysops. Hello, gents. Before we start, just want to send a message out to our loyal listener Cecil. I saw your text asking for me to run a comp last week.
Yeah.
Um,
Send it to me too. I didn't have my phone.
Yeah. So apologies for missing that, but appreciate you tuning in and watching the show and participating in.
It was his birthday too. Happy belated to
Ah,
Cecil.
happy birthday,
Well,
Cecil. There we go.
I had my phone. I just wasn't looking at my text messages, if I'm telling the truth. I was focused on the mission at hand of finding the exact property to comp. I was so focused between that, I was not paying attention. But appreciate you texting in as always for our loyal list. Hey, if you're a loyal listener, shoot us a message. Maybe we'll give you a shout out on the next episode.
There you go. There you go. And maybe next week we'll revisit the comps and do a second check of it. So maybe I'll check your property next week. We'll see.
Like it.
Bro, I just want to say something. My office smells like death right now. So I left for the parks for the last like 4 days or
right.
whatever. And apparently I'm battling the rats. I've killed like 5 of them outside, inside on my wooded property here.
With
Anyway,
traps or what? What was
with
the
traps, mostly, and then like some have died. My neighbor, I think, poisons them, and then they'll die in my yard, and then like I'll have a couple. Like I've gotten 2 dead ones in my yard from that. Anyway, one died in here while I was gone. The trap up in the rafters got it, fell down, because I have open rafters over there, and I come in and I tell my son to bring like my work bag in, and he goes, Dad, I think you killed a rat. It smells horribly. No one has come in here. It's just my office. So nobody comes in while I'm gone. I turned the AC up to 80 because I'm leaving. It's what you do in Florida. And so, bro, that dead body baked in here in 4 days. I had flies and maggots, and this rash just laying on my floor dead. And like, so then my daughter's like, Dad, you should light some incense or a candle. So I'm like, cool. I'm going to light some incense. We got a bunch of it. So I get rid of the body, obviously, light the incense after I Clorox and clean. I imagine my office is what the medieval times smelled like during the bubonic plague, of like when they were trying to mask death with like
Death with
frankincense and myrrh. And like, so now you walk in, it's the most raunchiest fucking smell. And I've been trying to air it out. And like, I walked in this morning and I was like, oh. But once you're in, I don't notice it. But so anyway, this is the perks of having trees and woods all around you, and you have a nice little office in here. But I think I think this is it. I thought I had them all before, but I don't know. I think this has got to be the last one.
Until they move back in again when it gets cold.
No, it's not like there's a fucking vacancy sign outside. We're like, hey guys, the last rat that occupied in there is dead. Let's move our family in. I don't think that's how that works. And like, I got like 2 more holes I know of that I got to seal up, but I think like
It's time to seal them up before you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. This weekend, I gotta go and like reseal some of the doors because they can squeeze into tiny. Like that's the thing people don't think of. It's not big holes.
Yeah.
It's tiny cracks and crevices that these fuckers can squeeze into.
Yeah.
So anyway,
cats or no? I can't even remember.
No, I did. We have an outdoor cat that I got after my rat like 5 years ago, the last time. And so I adopted Aladdin outside. I started feeding him to keep him around, no rat problems. Then my fucking neighbor gets involved. She overfeeds him. So now he's just a fat, lazy outdoor cat. Literally will be laying there, rat will run by him, and he's like, hey, welcome to the party.
There's
Like,
great food here.
Yeah, like welcome to the neighborhood. So yeah, she's really ruined the what is the word, efficacy of that rat. Or that cat, I mean. So yeah, no, not at this moment. We got nothing. So anyway,
a nice hunter cat would help you out there. I always had cats that like to hunt and kill stuff, birds and mice and.
Well, it's funny because
that doesn't have any problems.
Yeah, because you got a cat sleeping on your fish tank back there. I'm sure those fucking fish love it. They're like, oh fuck, there's a predator sleeping right above me.
That has to give the fish such bad anxiety. The cat,
just like a fucking life. Which is funny because we were listening to we're going to talk about that Pace Morby Steve Trang podcast today, and he was talking about the cat. The cat Well,
An experiment.
yeah, the experiment, and I was thinking like, can I just pump like cat urine? And then I was like, oh, it'll smell even fucking worse. Like I don't need that.
Yeah, I wonder what the essence of cat is that they used. I'm sure there's like some kind of like
Pheromone.
unscented pheromone that like yeah, that'd be interesting. You should look into
I don't know. My dog's always in here with me, but she's fucking worthless. So
that.
fucking worst Malinois ever. Note of advice: if you're gonna buy a Malinois, buy one from Coastline Canine or someone reputable. Don't buy one without checking their exact bloodline, or you'll get a fucking reject. I love her, but she has failed all Malinois awesomeness
But
tests.
they're not rat hunters though, are they?
No, but she should high prey
Mm.
drive if you get the right one. She has good prey drive, not high prey drive.
You need a
But
rat
like,
terrier.
yeah, like a rat terrier, like my grandma used to have. They're such an old lady dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are dogs for specific purposes. People don't realize that when they get dogs. When you get into the dog industry, there's dogs have purposes. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there for this podcast. This is not the Let's Talk Dogs
Funny though, I
podcast.
saw a clip of Ricky Gervais this morning talking about like dogs getting handed out their jobs, and he's like, Labradors, you guys like to go get ducks and gently carry them back,
Yeah,
and the terriers, you like to go down rabbit holes, and he's like, Ridgebacks, you're killing lions, and he pretends to be a Ridgeback, and they're like, what? We're
yeah.
killing lions?
I had a Ridgeback, best dog ever,
Yeah,
best dog.
pretty cool.
Stubborn as hell, but great dog.
Because they kill lions.
They don't kill lions.
That's crazy.
But what they do is they distract the lion so the hunter can kill him. So they're brave enough to go in and tease the lion, and there'll be a couple of them just jabbing at the lion, and the guy comes in and spears them. But yeah, lion hunters, killers. But anyway.
All right, on to the topic at hand. There's a podcast out. I have not finished it all, so I'm curious. Some insights from the last half of it that I missed. I'm gonna finish it because it speaks to my thought patterns. I thought Pace was doing well. Anyways, it's real estate disruptors.
You don't need to listen to the podcast with Pace Morby and Steve Trang if you listen to ours, because everything Pace has said, I've literally been saying on this podcast, and then I'll get messages from people about, oh, so wholesaling's going under. Oh, so you can't make money doing this. Oh, so I'm supposed to get into mobile home parks because you say so. Bro, I've been saying this for years. Wholesaling is an addictive, and they called it a golden hamster wheel, which is similar to what I've been saying. It's an addiction that you can't get rid of, but you are better than wholesaling. If you can succeed at wholesaling, there are so many better ways to be making money, and that's what Pace, I would say that's the majority of what Pace and Steve talked about, along with some other stuff. But the theme of it was like, go do something. Like, wholesaling is not a long term. And did you see the part where he called out people claiming to have sold their wholesaling business? And he's
I
like,
didn't get to that part.
and he's like,
Except Jamil Damji. He called everybody except Jamil.
yeah, and he's like, bullshit. He's like, show me that you actually sold it, and then show me that that guy's performing on the note, because you know, he didn't say this, but odds are, you know, they didn't pay cash. They didn't pay you $4 million cash. They probably bought it on some type of note, and then let's see them performing on it. I agree wholeheartedly. There is no way, if I am a wealthy person, that I'm like, let me go buy this semi-illegal wholesaling. Like, what shitty fucking businessman is like, let me go buy this semi-performing wholesaling industry or this semi-legal wholesaling business with all these sales guys that are going to try to steal my fucking IP, and if I sue them, they're worth nothing anyway, so what am I going to get from suing them?
Yeah.
The reason I brought this up as a potential episode to talk about is because it has so many parallels to what we've spoken about in the the 3+ years of the show, but also what BP's focus has been the last 3 years of getting into more affordable housing and building up an empire there, which now people hear Pace say it and they're like, oh man, I'm going to probably start doing this now. I mean, the whole thing.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, fuck, thanks.
The Airbnb's dying.
Airbnbs,
that was a BP.
I've been saying that since I was looking at Airbnbs out in like Glenville.
AI.
The Airbnb's dying. AI. Literally the terminology they use, wholesaling, using that to graduate to something else. We've done that on episodes, even with Eric Brewer, where we did the graphic for it. Future of AI was interesting, but I thought it was a great episode, and obviously huge fans of both those guys.
Yeah.
Steve Trang, literally best podcast in the space.
Oh,
super
100%.
chill, and
That dude
Bright
set
guy.
the tone. He set the tone. Friend of the
Yeah.
podcast, was on our podcast. Great, and it's tough getting someone like him on your podcast. So it was very
Mhm.
magnanimous of him to show up on our. That was back in the early days. It was a couple years ago.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, and he's a great example of what to turn. But Carlos, I would disagree. It wasn't just that. They talked about not just like wholesaling's bad or buy RV parks or hey, the business. They talked about what we've also been saying, which is it's not that wholesaling you shouldn't get into it. It's you get into it and you go do something
Mhm.
else. And
Mhm.
so that's what Pace said. He's like, wholesaling didn't necessarily change my life. He said it changed my life by providing wholesaling itself didn't provide me the freedom. Wholesaling provided me the opportunity to go find the lane to change or to obtain my freedom, which he then took wholesaling into sub two, creative
Mhm.
finance, which he took into RV parks and buying businesses and the show and all these things. But he said himself that he's only doing like it's not even his focus. He
5
does
deals
like
a month.
yeah, if
Just
that,
that come
right?
in that happen to come in from
Yeah, they're
students
more
or whatever.
JV deals than
Yeah.
anything. He's got one acquisition guy that's on salary. And look at Steve, wholesaling to sales training to now starting his own AI sales training company, which I thought was genius. I was like, shit, why didn't I think of that when I was doing like training and sales stuff? But everyone's got their lane and he's picked his lane. I picked mine. Pace picked his. And
Mhm.
like, so that's the thing. What can you turn wholesaling into?
Mhm.
Yeah. That one's pretty. I mean, yeah, we've spoken a lot about that, and that was interesting. Um, I thought like did you know he was into mobile home parks? I didn't know that. Not that
Mhm.
I follow him very aggressively, but
Yeah, he doesn't
RV
do it.
parks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his lane like it is mine, but like it is in the sense of like I target them no matter what.
he's
He's
targeting
only
him because it's affordable housing, and he
no, he's
sees.
targeting them because it's creative finance.
Oh, you
He's
think so?
getting,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Everything he has is on creative finance, and if it comes into his wheelhouse, he will buy it. Whereas
But no,
me,
he said that like he's not looking at luxury. He thinks luxury is still going to be a thing, but he was spending a lot of time
yes,
talking about like the economic impact of AI and the recession that's coming, and affordable housing is going to be like a needed thing.
100%. And he did
And
the same thing I did, which is when him and his wife started staying in RV parks, right? Like, so a couple years ago when we rented our first RV and started staying, and I realized, and that's when I was meeting people, and it's the same thing he said. And you
Mhm.
start to see, and I was like, wait a second, people are living here full time, which is not what I thought of
right.
when I thought of RV parks. And it wasn't until I started staying in them and I saw people with like their little patio sets up, they're skirting around their RVs, and you start talking to them, and you're like, this is a lifestyle. And I said it before, and I tell people when people request one-on-ones with me and they ask me why, I say RV parks were mobile home parks were in the 70s. And I don't mean
Mhm.
financially, I just mean for a lifestyle. Mobile homes were once actually mobile. They're not
Mhm.
anymore. It's more like one time set it and forget it. RVs are back in the day. You would literally get your mobile and you would travel with it. You would take it. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't hard. They were skinny. They were small. Now
Yeah.
they're bigger, double wides, all that stuff, and it's quite expensive. You need 10 G's or more to move a double wide, not even including your setup, right? And it's like not a lot of people who have mobile homes can afford 10K every 5 years or 10 years, or 10K every 5 years or 10 years to move their freaking home. But you
Yeah.
can't afford to move your RV every 2 months or 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really interesting. I mean, his whole like economic outlook. I was like, man, it's a really interesting. Like we've talked about it before, and like
Mhm.
you kind of see the writing on the wall. But you're like,
Both of
is
them.
this going to happen?
Both of them are big. Have been big on like a massive crushing recession this year.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
affordability. Like I mean, not just the recession. They tied it all into like AI and AI replacing jobs, and it's like there's going to be a massive need for like affordable housing because people aren't going to have
Mhm.
jobs anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what he neglects to think of is what I see in the mobile home park and RV, like in my RV park and mobile home parks, right? So there are things I don't think robots will do, at least in the next 10 years. Like I
Yeah.
get there's robots doing roofing, robots doing lawn care, stuff
In the
like that.
Amazon warehouse, they
Yeah,
mentioned like
yeah.
100,000 robots in the
But
Amazon
like
warehouses.
linemen, field workers, stuff like that, where you need a human laying lines, and I'm sure there'll be robots doing that, but eventually you still need
Construction.
You need humans for a major part of stuff. Even the robots in construction, you still need a guy manning the robotic concrete layer, feeding it all that stuff. But a lot of the customers of his and of mine are service workers, and you talked
Mm-hmm.
about Starbucks replacing, and
Mm-hmm.
bro, I hate going to these shitty fucking. I hate Starbucks and their purple hair motherfuckers and their attitude. Every time I go in there, it's like a fucking attitude of shit, and then you have the nerve to ask me for a tip. It's like, dude, you've been shitty to me since I've been in here, and you made me wait. Like, no, I'm not giving you a tip. But why is that not replaced with a kiosk and a machine that can do
Oh,
it?
those are the easiest things to do. Like
Mhm.
those like very small, like just do something and deliver an end result. Like I'd see it hard to see.
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Like things
But
like
Chick-fil-A, all these things are the inhabitants or residents of the parks that he's talking about. So like what happens then? And I am worried about that. What happens when AI replaces the
do you
all
think it
by
could do things
McDonald's
like
workers?
retail though in quick in
What do
let's
I
say
need?
5 years?
What the fuck does retail do?
I mean, they have people stock shelves, right?
Nah, bro, that could be done. That can easily. I used to stock shelves. That could easily be
You
done
think so?
with a robot, 100%. And I don't think it'll be a shelf as we see it. It'll be
Mm.
a different. They'll have to reconfigure the way shelving is done to be able to be with more tracks. Like things will be packaged differently, and they'll be on
Like,
track.
yeah, I'm not I know, like,
Yeah,
I'm saying that can happen. I'm talking time frame. I'm like, okay, I
but
feel
like
like it's easier to replace somebody at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts,
I think
McDonald's
I
than
think
it
you
would
can
be to,
replace
like
most people in a Target. Like I went to Target the other day because I had a lunch meeting with a lender and I needed a dress shirt, right? Because I'm fat and I didn't fit in any of mine. And I'm like, shit, I'm so fat. Like I need to go buy some fucking fat boy pants. Or as my daughter calls me, I guess the new term is big back. So she's like, oh, you're.
I
I
haven't
guess
heard
that's
that.
like a teenage term for being fat. And
That
my
hasn't made
son,
its way up the
no,
age
my son's
generation
like,
yet.
he's laughing and he's like, you don't even know what that is. I said, I may not know your language, but I'm smart enough to know that when you're calling me big back, it's got to be that you're calling me fat. Like,
Mm.
like, you know, like there's no other interpretation that I would make other than you calling me fat, bro. Like, I get it. Anyway, I went in there in our generation. There's a changing room. There's someone manning that changing room. You get let into the
Yeah,
rooms. And so I'm standing there like, there's nobody around, no one in any of the aisles. And the lady comes up to me and she's like doing also changing room. And she's like, hey, you don't need to stand there. They really don't man these things nowadays. You just kind of pick a room, go in. I said, but there's stuff in there. She's like, yeah, they don't really come and clean it. It's not someone's stuff. Like they're leaving and coming back. It's just people just leave their stuff in there. And since
oh
there's
my
no one
god.
here, and I'm like, so I could just go in. And she's like, yeah. And she went in her room. I went in mine. And I thought about it in that moment. I go, this is it. Like service is getting so shitty. Why do you need those employees anymore? Like, why couldn't
Yeah,
this be a robot on a kiosk where I go in and I pick a room, the door opens, boom, I'm done, and then I bring my clothes, kind of like an Aldi's where they removed all the people. You go in, you get your cart, put a quarter in. Same thing. You go in, you put your quarter in, whatever, and you make
right.
sure the clothes. They'll work a system out. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's this year or next year, but within 5 years, retail employees, service working fast food, there is no reason why, with their level of complaining and desire for more money that they don't deserve, should should not be replaced.
It's crazy, man. We're living in such a crazy age right now.
It's
Um,
pretty wild.
that's wild. There's a few things I wanted to hit on. I guess we could try doing with a little bit of structure, but yeah, just the future of AI is crazy. I did want to shoot through one to maybe we can start with something that's specific for
Yeah,
our audience. I'm shooting through the tool. If you want to pop that open, John, maybe we could take a look at it really quick and break it down from like you guys could break it down from like a tech and like a SaaS perspective. Prop.ai. This is the tool Pace mentioned he's using for all his cold calling. And he said that essentially human cold calling is essentially dead and that everybody's going to be moving to AI cold calling. He should have gotten an affiliate link for this. He said he doesn't have one. Prop.ai. It looks pretty cool. What are your guys' thoughts on the move? I know John and I have talked about it with my buddy Zev, who's doing some AI cold calling and built out his own. What do you guys think about Pace's stance on fully AI cold calling? Have you guys heard people using this?
I've not
Yeah.
heard of anybody using prop AI. I thought his
Not the company
comment.
specifically, no.
Yeah, I thought his comment though about how what he thinks is happening is sellers are preferring to
Yeah.
talk to a robot first was really intriguing to me. Like, and what did he say? He said something like they can be more honest.
Yeah, I'd like his data on that. I don't know if I agree with it, but I could also see it. It just depends. I don't know. I don't know my opinion on that. It's like I love talking to a person, but at the same
Yeah.
point, most fronters are robotic anyway, right? Like it's just straight question, question, question. Okay, thank you. I'll have Brandon call you later.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm kind of thinking is happening with this stuff is like, yeah, maybe it's not like a salesperson, but yeah, can it very easily replace that cold caller that you've hired from some foreign country for $4 an hour? Yeah, I
Oh, they are
totally
on
see
there.
that. Who's on there?
Pace, Morby, and
Oh yeah.
Jamil. And they also said in relation to this too, it's like if they could short a country like they could like a stock, it would be the
Oh
Philippines.
yeah,
That was
dude.
interesting.
Philippines, they would short the Philippines, and it's like, I get it. This company, Prop AI, is going to replace a lot of Filipinos. It's going to replace, and that he talked about his business, and yeah, he's probably going to have to fire all 300 of those people, try to reconfigure them into stuff, and it's like, but a lot of those Filipinos have like, it's so hard to train them. You have a lot of barriers anyway, and those Filipinos have spent so much time being trained in specific things. It's going to be hard for them to pivot unless they go to that company that pretends they're AI but really has like manual people doing the coding and calling. Um,
That was
I don't
crazy.
know. I have heard of people using AI callers, not this company specific. Again, Alex Ottawell said it a while ago. Carlos follows him, and his reason for getting out of wholesaling is any business that you have to, in order to make money, not to make more money, but in order to make money, any business that you have to automate and offshore almost 90% of the entire business is not a survivable business. And I agreed with
Yeah.
him because it's like if everything I do has to be virtual and cheap and cheap and cheap because just to make my 20% or so, it's like that's not a business I want to retire in. And then it's like now you look at this and it's like, so now in order, and that's what Pace is saying, like, why am I paying all these employees when I could do this? So now I'm taking it to the next step and I got to replace even more people to make a profit because because with TCPA, the cost of phone numbers and data and everything going up, it's like I need more ways to cut costs. So now I use this instead of people. And then Pace made a reference on the show, and he's like, I know people that are 55 still going to appointments and doing it not because they want to, but because they have
30-year-olds.
to. Yeah. But he was saying you don't want to be 55 years old having to
Right.
run your business. And he was talking about the guy who made $2 million top line and only netted 300.
Yeah, like
And I
16% profit.
yeah, and I said it years ago. The same thing. The reason why I quit being a realtor was because I saw like 50 and 60-year-olds still showing people houses. And I was like, I don't want to be showing houses when I'm 50 or 60. And then the same thing with wholesalers. I said the same thing Pace said. I saw people 50 some years old. They're still training cold callers and they're still fucking dealing with data and they're still trying to train salespeople and they're still going to appointments. And I don't want to be that guy. And I needed a business that could survive these types of things. And that's when I got into mobile home parks. I mean, it's getting the entire industry is going to be turned over. How many years did he say wholesaling has? He's like another couple years, 2-3 years or something.
Yeah, I think they have different opinions
a
on how
legal
fast
perspective.
AI is going to be coming.
Oh,
Just wholesaling in general. So what he's also said is, and he didn't say it's to wholesaling, he said it to businesses, but it stands for wholesaling. Right now there is a 1%, a 10%, and a 90%, right?
yeah.
Of the 10%, there's 1%. Of the 100%, there's 10 and 90%, right? What I personally believe, and kind of what he said, but he didn't say the full thought, is 90% of this business, just like realtors, are going to go out of business. Then
Mhm.
of the 10%, the 1% becomes the new 10%, and the 9% of the top 10% that used to be becomes now the bottom 90%. And you're going to keep seeing that change from the 1 and 10 and the 90 and 10. That's going to keep interchanging like that. The top 1% of the 10% will always be there until the bottom 90 falls out. then it shifts. That 10% gets split again between the 1 and the 9, gets split between the 10 and the 9. It's just going to keep consolidating that way because the people with the money will keep adopting these things and keep making money. But
Yeah.
I would then argue, if you're one of those guys and you have that ability, wouldn't you want to be in a business that makes you a fuck ton more money and that isn't going to get strapped down with legalities, because it's only going to get more and more strict?
The interesting thing, like, I mean, yes, we're focused on real estate investing, but like that argument about AI affecting industries could be played out across
Any industry.
anything.
Yeah.
And then you remove the conversation of, well, there's better things for you to go spend your like time and money. Like, we could say industries where you think you could say that for what you're doing, Brandon, right? Like acquiring mobile home parks and operating mobile home parks. You could say that same argument for AI in that industry is coming as well. And it's like, what does that mean for the world when like 90% of people are constantly getting kicked out because they're not? And what they said was like, staying up late, working on the weekends, adopting this new technology that puts you so far ahead of the game. It's like incomprehensible to the other. And he used that like tractor story
Yeah.
to explain it for like farms. Like, you just buy them up. Like, that's an interesting outlook on business in general. And I think I like Pace's perspective on how long that will take. I think Steve was a little aggressive. He was like a year to 2 years. Like, I mean, sure, in a year to 2 years, those people that are adopting are going to be amazing, but it will take longer for that
It'll be
90% to drop out completely.
Yeah, it'll be a longer cycle, but because like Amazon did 100,000 robots, but they didn't do 10 million, right? Like
Right.
they didn't, and it's going to ease every year. Starbucks is going to do it. Like, we're already seeing it. They talked about Circle K. I encountered that Circle K robot about a year ago out in Cordell, Georgia. Cordell, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, Cordell, Georgia. Population fucking -0. Like, it's just fucking like fucking Cordell. But like, okay, how long until every Circle K gets it? And I was in a Circle K. I was in a Circle K this weekend, and I wanted to get my Zins. I wanted to get a drink. I had to go to the bathroom. I was meeting my manager at one of my parks, and this was right next to it, and I was in a hurry. I walk in. They have 3 employees standing behind the counter looking like fucking just holding their dicks in their hand.
Oh, yeah.
They had another one working on a register, and they had one doing like working like with a
Working the
screwdriver.
machine. Yeah.
Like working on something. And there was one by the door. She's letting everybody know, hey, we're doing a shift change right now. Do you have cash or card? Because right now we're working on our machine and we don't have anybody who's able to work another machine because of shift change. We have to shut down the one register for the shift change. So, and I'm like thinking, all I thought was replaced. A kiosk doesn't need a shift change. The Circle K I went to in Cordell would never have this happen. You would walk up, you slide your items under, they scan them, you put your card in, you're effing done.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this one out by Little Rock, and I was like, oh man. And they're all just standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, who's paying you for this? So yeah, John, like, I don't think it's going to happen like Steve said, but I do think it'll happen like Steve said. Not 100% replacement, but in the next 1 to 2 years, I think we're going to see drastic changes in retail service, like fast food service restaurants. People are going to invest, in the ones that don't are going to be like the tractor story Pace said, which is the restaurants that don't put in the hostess that's robotic or whatever. Like, hostesses are the dumbest fucking thing. They're the dumbest people in the fucking world. I went to a restaurant the other day. It was the same thing. Walked in, I had my reservation. 7 minutes later, she's just like, we're setting the table. I was like, you're still setting the table? I was like, my reservation was 7 minutes ago. We're getting a sling back. So I left her. I walked back to the restaurant. Into the restaurant. I found my party of 13 for my son's birthday. I walked back. I said, my table's set up. We're all going. Let's go. She goes, well, we're setting it up. We still need to. I said, the tables are set. And she's like, well, that's for another reservation at 6. I said, I don't care. I said, my reservation's at 5:30. It was 7 minutes ago, and you've just been standing here. I said, we're waiting on a high chair or sling back for the baby. I said, you're not holding up 13 people from eating because you're waiting on a fucking sling back chair for a baby. We went there, and guess what? The sling back chair, all the high chairs, the table was set. Everything was like I said it was. This girl just sat there chit-chatting with her friend and
Not
didn't
checking. Yeah.
not checking. But if that was a robot thing on a kiosk where someone says table's ready and then my little thing why am I paying her whatever they're paying her? Like, why is that necessary? And again, like Pace, in these real world examples, people like him or me, you walk in, or John, and you're walking in and you're saying replace, like a software, a robot. It's the tech is there now.
Yeah, it's slowly going to roll out. I remember around a year ago, I went with some buddies to a place in Pembroke Pines, like 30 minutes north of here. And it had literally the robot that brings out the meat. It's like a Korean barbecue where you cook your own meat and you just press the screen of what you want. It rolls back into the kitchen and just brings out the raw meat. You take the tray off and it goes back. Now all throughout downtown Miami here, they have these little, it's like 4-wheel thing, Cocos. Those just started rolling out the last few months where they're like delivering food or something. Yeah, it says Coco on there. But dude, their sensors are like good. CO, Coco.
I've seen Instagram or TikTok things of these things, and it's like, but you're in a high you're in a high income so
dude, these things are all buzzing around.
Yeah.
These things are all buzzing around.
Financially investing in those in a place like Miami, New York, Japan, Tokyo.
Right.
Like
it makes sense.
It makes sense. Does not make sense in Cordell, Georgia,
or
Lakeland. But eventually, John, like I see these things happening. Carlos is seeing them probably first because he's in the mecca of tech pretty much, other than Silicon Valley or Scottsdale or like New York. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's like, but when
those things are trippy.
I just see these people and I'm like, man, and then I look at my residents and I look at what their jobs are. So like I was talking to this one chick at my one park and she's got all these kids and I was collecting rent and she was late on rent. I said, what do you do? It was just rent. I was writing a receipt for her and I said, what do you do? And she said home health. And I said, that's a good business to be in.
Heck yeah, it is.
Right. And I was thinking
there's one that will survive.
There's one that'll survive. I think doctors and surgeons, they're being replaced with a lot of AI and robots and stuff.
I see that more of like assisting, like, and I think it should be assisted by AI.
Yeah, I don't know if I want
to human error,
but the doctors themselves are smart enough to actually be the ones. The way I would argue, although I don't know many doctors, but I would argue the way their brains are wired. Their intelligence levels of being able to consume and learn information, they would be able to man those robots, assist the robots, it wouldn't be a hard transition for them. But like, I don't think physical therapy, I see physical therapy, home health, being in with an old person, taking care of them, whether it's wiping butts, taking them to the next chair, making sure they don't fall, have what they need. I think maybe some robot stuff in there, but I think humans are a huge aspect of that. And
Rich will have a robot that does that. I mean,
I think Rich would have both.
Yeah.
If I'm rich, John, I don't know if I want just a robot. I want human. I have enough money. I think having humans will become a luxury.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah,
I think it takes a long time for the cost of like a robot that effectively can do things and not break down. Like, the government's not going to pay for a robot to do home health.
100%. Right now, robots is a luxury. Humans are the cheap labor.
Yeah, it will take like a few decades for that to swap.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I can't argue at a time frame, but I feel like it's going to be a point where it's like your SaaS service, right? Not yours specifically, but before, talking to a human on the phone was pretty normal. Now you have to pay a special fee to get human service because otherwise you get your chatbot and your robot and your help menu, and that's what you get as a regular peon customer. But if you pay enough money, you could talk to somebody in the office because they're your white glove, whatever assistant to your software.
Yeah.
And I see that, like, if I'm rich, I'll pay the 150 or 250 grand a year salary to have you in my office. And so, like everything, top 1%, 10%, 90%, or bottom 9. You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's some people that will be so good at what they do, they will command their money and their pay. And I say the same thing for sales. I think there's some sales guys that are just be so good. Robots will never replace them. There'll be some mechanics so good. There'll always be those people. And if they're smart enough and ambitious enough, they can name if they get into the right industry, they can name the right niche 100%. Of their industry. So it's like, Where's wholesaling lie in this, and where's real estate?
Yeah. Pace mentioned too a bot for like a 5K one time. You can get an executive assistant.
Yeah,
I
did
wanted
he
to
ever
know what
say
I
the
wanted
name?
to know what that was.
Yeah, he needs an affiliate link for that.
I was like, 5K? Like, I would literally use that, right? Like, and my question was, what do they do?
Right.
Right.
And like,
Like,
is it
because they're not human, so they're not getting my coffee, right? But they're checking my email all night. They're responding. They're reminding me of things. I don't know.
yeah,
I would
I'm
love to
curious.
know, though. I want to know what that is.
Pace,
I'm sure
if
that'll
you're
roll out.
listening, please let us know what the name of that
He's
company is.
obviously listening because all of his ideas, I felt like, were my ideas. But Pace also, his brain also works in a similar way to mine, which is why he's so extremely successful. It's like he sees things, but the difference is what wholesaling has provided him. He immediately implements it.
Mhm,
It's like he sees something and he's like, "Oh, this is changing. I'm gonna do this now."
mhm. Yeah.
But and then Carlos, did you pick up on the Steve Trang thing with his daughter? What he's told his daughter?
That's one of my bullet points I had for you guys is the two fathers of the show is raising kids to learn AI or Pace's son, the oldest one, being a pilot until he figures out what he wants to do. But
Yeah.
that's one thing
Do you
that
know how
another
old
reason
his daughter is?
Imagining some teenage
middle
15, 16.
school-ish.
I was gonna say 15. I don't know.
Yeah, middle school, high
Okay.
school-ish.
He doesn't really post about her. I mean, she's got to be that age based on the way he talks about her.
Yeah, but that was one of the many reasons that I wanted to bring the episode too. It's because they both talk a lot about raising kids and stuff like that. But I love it. Steve Trang, I could totally see that how he rolls, just like pretty much giving his daughter. I don't know if you saw that part, John, but pretty much giving his daughter the freedom to do whatever she wants, but it has to be with like an AI focus. So she's
I
starting
think
off
it's
like building websites and stuff for him now.
I did make it through that part. I think that's really interesting, and like this is something we've talked about it on the show, and I debate a lot. Like AI, my kids don't interact with AI yet. I think if it's done with the person that teaches them how to use it the right way and not just as like a shortcut and like
Yes.
versus like an enhancement of your capabilities. And I think that that requires like a really steady hand in direction and involvement. And so it sounds
Thinking.
like Steve is doing that. And like I know
Yeah.
that's what you do with your kids when
Yeah.
your son when you're directing him to use AI. And that's how I will do it with my kids once that time comes. Like I haven't seen the need yet. Like my son's getting to that age where it's like, okay, we got to start thinking about this, and I want him prepared for the world that he would enter in, 4 or 5 years. But like I wouldn't I don't send them to public school. I wouldn't send them to public school and then their friends are like, yeah, just go to Chat GPT and have it write your essay. Like that
No.
is not
It's
what
the
it should
thinking.
be.
You have to teach your kids to think. So, like with me,
Yeah.
the way I use ChatGPT, one thing, and I think about entrepreneurs in general, like one thing that's unique about us is the rational, logical thinking to ask questions: why, how, why, and how does this happen? In the curiosity to go find that out. Right. That's where ChatGPT is, and I think could be is like, like help me out with this, and then you're going back and forth and you're learning through it, not just like do this for me so I don't have to think.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is funny because like, so one, my daughter, she was into filmmaking, but obviously that's being replaced by AI. She's going to school for physical therapy, which I think is very safe from AI for a pretty long time. But like, and I've told her, I said, kid, like film is dead unless like the days of you making a film, no one cares. But like in the last 2 months, the AI videos, I saw an AI video about the protest, the No Kings protest. Legitimately, they were interviewing people. Like they had an interviewer interviewing people, dudes, girls. It was so good. I sent it to my daughter, and then I add Chat GPT. I said, "What tools?" I said, "Do you know these videos? The gorilla videos and all these ones. What tools are they using to make these things?" And ChatGPT broke down the process of how they do it. And
Mhm.
I sent that to my daughter, and I was like, "This is pretty much like if you wanted to be, because she loves making. She's creative."
Mhm.
But she recognized like the days of Hollywood, the
Storytelling.
days of film are dead. Not even storytelling is done through ChatGPT and stuff, but it's the editing. There's no reason to even have an editor. Even Steve Trang says on the podcast he uses Opus Clips to edit to clip his videos up.
All the time.
But I was
Yeah.
like, But here's where my daughter could survive. I don't think she's got the entrepreneurship mentality to do it. But like if she did, is forget about making films as you know it. Learn AI, write your stories, have ChatGPT help you write your stories. Learn the tool. I forget what it said, VO something. It was Gemini something, and then VO. I'd have to look
Theo,
it
it's
up
the new
again.
Google one.
The Google,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
That's the
making all
other
the
one.
videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it broke down the process. And now, if she learns that, comes up with an idea like the guy with the Bigfoot one's hilarious.
I
Yeah.
saw the
Uh,
ayahuasca Bigfoot one
just
yesterday. It was
hilarious.
amazing.
Oh, I need
And
to see
like,
that one. The ayahuasca Bigfoot. I haven't seen that.
and like the interviewer where they're interviewing MAGA people about like running over protesters in Florida because of DeSantis, and
I
like
haven't seen that one.
the way they portrayed the MAGA people, it was hilarious. All done AI, all of it. You
Mhm.
don't have to be on film. You don't need to go hire actors. You don't need
It's
any of that.
interesting. I think there's a huge market for that, right?
Yeah.
Like we know that
I loved it.
people
Yeah.
are going to have so much more free time. They're not going to have a job at Starbucks or Target. Let's bring it back to the beginning of the podcast. What are they going to be doing at home? They're going to be scrolling through their phone. Like there is a massive opportunity for like catching eyeballs. Like unfortunately, I'm like it's fucking brain rot, and this isn't doing
Oh
anything for
yeah.
humanity. But
No,
like,
no.
yeah, no, I think that's an
Bro.
opportunity if you look at
But
like what's going to happen.
I will get sick of it. There
Yeah.
will be right now. It's so funny because the world is your oyster. You could tell any
Have you
story.
seen the stormtrooper ones where they do
I did
vlogs?
not see those. I've seen the Mary
That's
and
amazing.
Noah
You
and like
gotta
the
go look for the
religious ones.
stormtrooper
Yeah.
ones. They're like vlogging like different parts of in the movie. Like we're just landing on Tatooine right now. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I
That's
saw the
amazing.
George Washington one where he was like the redcoats and he's going after. He's like, they're sleeping right now. We're gonna go in. He's like, we really messed them redcoats up. No cap. And it's like, it's. But at a certain point, right now, it's entertaining and intriguing because it's new. But at a certain point, we're gonna yearn for real and people and
Yeah.
emotion again. But that's gonna be a way. We're gonna have to burn ourselves out on this, like everything else.
Oh yeah, it's funny. My partner, she does not like AI very much, but she cracks up. One of the ones that she loves is they take podcasts and then they redo the video of them as babies.
Yeah.
I've seen those. I've seen
messed
those.
around with
She
that.
thinks of the
Not
most
as
hilarious things
they are
ever.
hilarious, but not as good. I just think I've seen those. Those are pretty funny. That interview one. So the Bigfoot and the Yeti thing is easy to me. I felt
Yeah.
like that was easy. They're fictional characters, not really hard. When they did the human on human interaction, and it was like just so. It was
I feel like
so
those are gonna
perfect.
start flagged though. Like if you're
I
looking
mean,
for
they had the hashtag AI underneath and all
And
that.
like watermarks. They got to put like watermarks on them.
I knew it was AI, but I'm saying at first glance, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Because the picture's too perfect to be human.
Yeah.
But so I was going to throw you for a loop, though. So the complete opposite of what I'm doing with my son is because I recognized the move to AI. So we went and visited a classical Christian, classical education school. And we went there, and a lot of things that align with us about, marriage between a man and a woman. There's only a male and a female. And their third thing is no technology in schools.
My kids do.
No, I said, well, do you guys teach typing? She goes, nope, we would rather have you work on like your thesis or your reading rather than,
Yep.
because they have to work up to this thesis as they graduate. And it's like, and there's nothing. There's no use of AI, no phones, no tablets. My son right now, like literally public school, like they put him in front of a tablet and my son will be like, yeah, we have to play this game. I forget the name of it to do math. And they'll just put us in class and they're on their tablet. And it's like, why? I don't want this, but you have no choice as a parent.
Right.
And it's like they give you these tablets. They don't have that. It's all he's going to learn Greek and he's going to learn Latin. He's going to learn rational thinking, philosophy, how to think, how to argue. And my logic with that is once he has that foundation, he's smart enough to know how to use technology, not as a crutch, but as a tool. It's the thinking that our generations have forgotten about, the thinking. And we rely on tech too much instead of utilizing it. So like that's where I think I made some mistakes with my eldest in the public school is now I'm trying to fix it. And the world has changed so drastically now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so yeah, I'm going the complete opposite. Instead of embracing the technology at 10, I'm saying let's wipe it out completely and let's focus on your brain. Then we'll get back to the tech. But at home, I still teach him, like, he emails. I taught him how to use email, and he'll email me questions when I'm out here because he knows, like, I'm not on my phone. He'll be like, Dad, can I wait to do this chore? I'm like,
That's great.
I'll respond back via email to him. But so I see what Steve is doing, and, like, again, the kid has to have a want and a desire to do those things,
Yeah.
to teach them that. My daughter
And the right
really
person to
is
guide them through it.
and the right person to guide them, and he's got probably a bunch of people in his office that are helping, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, he's got a great team of tech people, obviously, that have been running his show and all of
Yeah.
his ads and commercials for, like, the last, what, 7? I don't know.
Mhm.
He's been doing it a while. But I don't know. You know, people like my daughter you're going to get weeded out of film and stuff unless you pivot to the guerrilla or to you, but you have to be creative to do
Mhm.
that. You can't
Yeah.
just be a cog in a wheel showing up. And it's like, you have to be the one to think of the idea and bring that idea into fruition to make that happen. And you don't need a whole team to do it either.
No, you can have a whole team of AI agents. I've seen videos of people, they literally just talk into Telegram and they say, like, make me something, and then it comes back and then they give advice and then it goes back and just passes through this like whole ecosystem of AI agents. And they're just
Yeah.
all they're doing is like refining via chat, which is really
Mhm.
intriguing. To ultimately end up making just clickbait or brain rot on on the internet. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, it
interesting.
is brain rot. It is.
And
It's like, yeah.
yeah, it is super brain rot. Like, I've talked to, like, I think I've talked about it on this show, like, people have asked me doing what I do, and they're like, "Oh, do your kids do, like, STEM? Do you have them learning to code?" And I'm like, "No. No, I don't have them learning to code right now." Like, my oldest kid has started to touch a computer to type because his classes are making him do that now, but the rest of mine kids are all still handwriting everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, they are
Handwriting.
learning critical thinking, like working through things, like they're learning, their brains are being like growing on their own versus like shortcuts.
Mhm.
And that's what's important. And I know that they will be fine. If they choose to go into coding,
Yeah.
they will be fine.
Yeah.
And they'll pick it up with
But there's
no
a
problem.
personality type for that.
Yeah.
You know what? Your kids have to. I
Develop.
tried to put.
They
Yeah,
gotta grow. They gotta
I
figure it
tried
out.
all that with my daughter. She
Yeah.
didn't want to do any of that. We tried all these different things and, like, you know, the interest levels, and she fell in love with filmmaking and creative stuff. You know, she was more creative, and sadly, that creative is kind of weeded out into AI. So then you need you need to mix creative with almost entrepreneurial in
Yeah.
order to succeed. It's a special type of, and that's a very hard combination. I think my daughter has it. I just don't think she's developed it, or I don't think I've helped her develop it properly.
It
But,
is
like,
interesting though, like, as a person who also did film when I was young and did it through college, like, the tools I had back then to make a story were long and complicated and
yeah.
difficult and required lots of people. Like, you could do things like now, like, you could make a sci-fi world
Oh, dude.
in like no time. In no time.
It's actually amazing when I watch these AI videos, and that's what I think about is, like, wow,
Mhm.
like, they just made this out of nothing, and it's hilarious and it's believable. And,
Yeah.
like, and I go back to that interview one. I wish I would have sent it to you guys, and I was just like, I was in awe of it. Not about the content. They were making jokes about things. It's not even about that. It was just like, wow,
Mm.
somebody made this out of nothing. No actors, no
Yeah.
location, no set location, no costume design, no makeup artists, no trying to handle personalities. You don't even
Yep.
need voice actors.
Yeah.
None of it.
Yeah. So true. It's really, and
It's
I have not
amazing.
played around with the technology, but it seems to be able to carry a character from prompt to prompt. Obviously, the prompts are short, right? Like, you get like a 5-second clip out of it or something like
Yeah,
that. So you got to be able to piece it together. You'll get better and longer with time. But
yeah,
like, since it can carry a character, like, you can do things repetitively and like move a story forward. It's really, I mean, it's really interesting. And I was watching, while I was watching the Steve Trang thing, ads just kept popping up, and it's like,
yeah. He's
there was this,
really Steve Trang has really added up his YouTube from what I
Mhm.
oh my
remember. Like,
god, yeah, it was like
I
ad
was like,
all the
holy
time, and it's
cow,
like the ones
dude!
you
Like,
gotta hit the skip button
yeah,
on. I'm like,
every 5 seconds, I was like, Steve, you're rich, bro. Like, calm down with the fucking ads, bro.
but I was getting targeted with ads of like these people, like entrepreneurs, like whatever, selling coaching or whatever, and
Yeah.
they were making these like fancy fucking videos
Yeah.
of
Don't need
like
that anymore.
different scenes, and I was like, oh my god, you could probably do all of what you just did
I'm actually
with
thinking
AI
about that.
now.
I was trying to think for my capital raising.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
totally could.
how do I, instead of me having to go out to the parks and make film, I was like, and I'm not there yet, but I was like, how do I make an avatar of myself talking about mobile home parks and in all
Mhm,
these different scenarios? And I can think of the scenarios, right? But
mhm.
but again, so like so here's a great example. I have the creative mind, I have the entrepreneurship, but I don't have time. But I would pay somebody
Yeah, you
who
would.
had the skill to do it, the creative mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset, to be able to take what I need and put it in because they've learned how to use it. So there's a job for that. You don't need to come up with your own idea, right? Like you don't be like, well, Brandon, I don't want to come up with the Yeti thing or the Noah's Ark thing, but I know how to do this. There are going to be people like me that are like, I need that one person who's now my entire crew,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly. Yeah,
I would want
gone are the
that
days where
person.
you needed like a 30 person ad agency.
Yeah, and all
Gone
the
are the days where you
VAs.
needed to
Yeah.
hire a full-time person
Mhm.
to like be all of that. And now it's like I need a specific person who has a skill set, and they could be their own ad agency and do it for 20 people.
Well, that's the thing is like back in the day when I needed to cut up my clips, I'd have one VA watching the videos, coming up with the clip times.
Hmm.
And then I had a video editor who would then have to go
Yep.
through that sheet, find those clips, edit them, and produce them. Opus Clip replaced both of those people, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with this. It's like back in the day, you would need someone to write your script, you would need someone to videotape like your commercial or whatever. Then you would need a videographer to go. And I did it when I did some Panama stuff. I had to bring a guy with me to shoot
Hmm.
the videos. You know what I mean? I would have to write what I wanted to say. We shot the videos and he would come back and he'd have to edit them. All of that gone. I don't need to go overseas. I don't need to go to a location. It can all be done now with one person with like what ChatGPT said, basically 3 softwares.
Yep. Yep. Totally possible.
Crazy.
An interesting world we are moving into, gents.
Carlos, that
Mhm.
was honestly, I've been so focused on mobile home parks, right? Like I don't watch Steve Trang or Pace or any of those things. I don't even get on Instagram because my Instagram's so heavily leaned towards wholesaling and real estate.
Mhm.
And my TikTok's now like more trucks and RV stuff and mobile home park stuff. But so I thought bringing that to us was such an eye-opening thing of like, I thought that was a great episode
Me too.
to just request us to watch because we have a pre-show where we talk about like what we're going to talk about, and Carlos had brought that up and I was like, yeah, another Pace, Pace has been on that show like 500 times. And then Carlos was like, no, we got to watch this. And then when I did, I was like, wow, it was reaffirming a lot of what I
It
believe,
was
but in
reaffirming, yeah.
a much different way with a
Mhm.
different type of angle to it. Um, and I just would speak out to the people a couple things is like the recession, the recession they've talked about. Everyone who watches our show knows I am a proponent. I've been through so many cycles. Get rid of your cars, get rid of your debt. You better hurry the fuck up. I've been saying it for years, and maybe I've been wrong or I've been late to it, whatever, or I've been too early. But we now have no car payments. We have no RV payments. We have nothing. Like, we don't live, everything is so minimal because I see the writing on the wall. And like Pace and Steve said, it is not just going to be a recession that's reset. It's going to be a recession that we don't get out of. It's going to be a lifestyle world changing event that changes the way we exist because of AI and jobs. And this time around, employers aren't going to rehire people like we did in '09. When they fired everybody in '09 and '08 because they ran out of money, they then rehired in 2012-15. Now they're just going to McDonald's or Amazon. They're not going to rehire. Do you remember when we hit the COVID stuff? Amazon influxed million or hundreds of thousands of new employees to handle it. That's not going to happen this time. They're just going to hire robots.
And in my recession plan, I hope they hire me to build them the AI things that they want.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is it's like just get prepared, cut your expenses. You don't need the cars. You don't need all that stuff. Paid off car and 200K in a bank is better than fucking 10K in a bank and a 200K car.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like, just protect yourself, because your cash flow is the most important thing when a recession hits, and you want to preserve as much of your cash flow, whether it's your W-2 job, whether it's your wife's W-2 job and you're in real estate, or whether it's the wholesaling that's providing it to you. Like that one guy we talk about, I forget his name. He went from $20-some thousand a month in expenses, and it was like he literally had to wholesale just to pay his that was his personal bills, not even the business. And he was like, and then him and his wife, they got rid of the cars, the big house, and they went down. They got a nice house, but they went down. I think he said, I'm going to mess it up. I think he was down to like 7K or 8K.
Yeah, it was like 7, 8. Yeah.
He basically cut it in a third of like what it was. So now he wasn't forced to work pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was, you know, there's a lot of people I know that are doing the same things I've been doing. They're getting ready for something. We don't know when, we don't know what, but shit can't keep surviving like it is.
Agreed. With that, everybody, have a great week. I didn't post the link, but it's really hard. It's not hard to find if you're like, are these guys actually saying things, and you want to go listen to Pace say the same things that we just said? Just search Real Estate Disruptors on YouTube. You'll find the podcast.
It's not Real Estate Disruptors anymore, bro. It's just Disruptors.
Is it just Disruptors now? All right, cool. Just
Disruptors. That's what I did. I just went in. It's like right at the top of Steve Trang's thing. Pace. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
I'm gonna finish listening to it because I like to read the affirmation of what I think as well.
Yeah. Confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Have a great week.
Go later, guys.